Deciding where to put your max badges in 2K26 can make or break your build. You get multiple +1s and +2s this year, but the problem is figuring out which badges to use them on. Some upgrades can completely change how your build plays, while others are basically a waste. And that's where I come in. In this video, I'm breaking down every single badge and explaining why or why not you should use a +1 or +2 on it. Now I'll be putting these badges in a tier list and I'm going to rank them based on how good / useful they are, how much value you get from upgrading them, and how they fit into different playstyles. So let's jump right into this, but first, if you didn't know, I'm giving away a ton of VC this month. To enter, all you gotta do is like the video, comment the word GOAT, and of course, be a subscriber. Alright, let's start off with the shooting badges. First up is Set Shot Specialist. As you guys know, the better the shooter you are, the better player you are. Nothing matters more than being able to hit your shots. You have to be able to shoot, bro. So you're going to want to get this badge as high as you can. This is a no-brainer. This is for sure going into S tier. Shifty shooter really depends on your playstyle. Like if you're a spot up, you're almost never going to use this badge, so it would be a D tier. But if you're someone who fades a lot on like the 2s, for example, it's an S tier. And if you're someone who shoots standstill shots and fades, I would say it's an A tier. Overall, it's a really good badge that caters to the most consistent type of shot in 2K. I gotta put this in the A tier. Deadeye. This is debatable because if you're sweating and playing really good players all day, this is a very useful badge. But for 99% of players, I would say this is not worth the upgrade, but it still is a shooting badge. And like I said, the better the shooter, the better the player. So I'll put this in a B tier. Limitless range is gonna be lower than you guys think. Here's why. First off, according to 2K Labs, the sweet spot for this badge is 27 to 29 feet. Look how deep that is. You gotta be far back for it to even activate. Ask yourself, how often do you actually shoot from back there? If it's a lot, then use an upgrade on it. If not, then obviously don't. I would say majority of players don't shoot and shouldn't shoot shots from that deep, so I'm putting this in the C tier. Speaking of 2K Labs, they test out all the best custom jump shots and upload them all to their website, including the data. They test the green windows, the speeds, the make percentages, and everything else you would need to find the best jump shot for you. It's only a few bucks a month, and if you use code DIRK, it's 20% off. Link in description. Mini Marksman is a good badge to upgrade, but the problem is, wouldn't you rather upgrade Set Shot and Shifty over that? Then again, it's still a shooting badge, and since you need to be under 6'4" to get this badge, you're going to be shorter than 80 to 90% of the defenders you play against, which means it'll activate a ton. So I'm actually going to put this in A tier. Post Fade Phenom just depends if you post fade or not. If you post fade a lot, then of course use an upgrade, but if you only post fade a couple of times a game, it's not worth it because they're already pretty easy to make regardless of the badge level. I'm putting this in C tier. Alright, let's get into defense. A lot of badges to talk about here. Let's first start with glove. As we all know, as of this recording on September 17th, on-ball animation steals do not work. Only blitz steals do, so glove is basically pointless. This is an easy D tier. Interceptor is role dependent because if you're a back end guarding the pick and roll, you want to have this badge high. But then again, lanes are already pretty good this year, so it's really not worth the investment if it's a tier 1 on that build. Hoff and Legend Interceptor though are cracked. So it really just depends how many max badges you have available. I'm going to put this in B tier. If I'm not mistaken, High Flying Denier is a tier 2 badge on every build this year. So with that in mind and dunking being OP and just protecting the rim, I'm going to put this in the A tier. For Paint Patroller, it's a little different because as long as you have this on silver with good positioning, you're going to be good majority of the time. At the end of the day, paint defense really comes down to height and positioning. Most of the top centers in the world run this on silver and gold. So with that in mind, I'm going to put this in the C tier. On-ball menace. As we all know, it's really hard to stay attached to your defender this year. So you'd think this is an automatic S tier. But the problem is it's a tier 1 badge on most builds. So you're going to have to choose if you want to prioritize this over an offensive badge. But since offense is easier this year, every stop you get matters so much more. So I'm going to put this in A tier. Immovable Enforcer is kind of like a less important on-ball menace. It's still a good badge, just not as good as on-ball. But on a lot of builds, it is a tier 2 badge, which makes it worth the upgrade as far as value. So I'm going to put this in the B tier. Pick Dodger is tough because this really depends on who you're playing against. If you're mostly guarding people who use screens, then it's an A or S tier. But if you're someone that guards majority ISO, then it's useless. So because this is very dependent on who you typically play against, I'm going to put this in the B tier. Challenger is a very underrated badge in my opinion, but the problem is it's a tier 1 badge. And because it's hard to get contests to begin with, it's not activated that much, so it really doesn't have enough value to use an upgrade on it. The only people who should upgrade this badge are locks. Other than that, I don't recommend wasting a tier 1 on it. So I'm going to put this in C tier. Off-ball pest is useful in specific situations, but there's so many other better options to use an upgrade on. So for that reason, it's a D tier. Post lockdown is only useful if you're guarding people doing a lot of post moves. And again, that has a lot to do with positioning, interior, and strength. So I'm going to put this in C tier. All right, now let's get into playmaking. Handles for days is a super important badge for point guards because if you have low stamina, it causes your shot to slow down, which can potentially cause you to mistime your shot and miss. We don't want that. Also, if your stamina is low, it'll make some dribble combos slower and not chain properly. We don't want that either. And as you can see, each badge level that you go up gets a pretty good increase as far as how long you can dribble. So I'm going to put this in A tier. Like we said earlier, on-ball pluck steals do not exist, only blitz steals, and unpluckable doesn't help against blitz steals, so this badge is also useless. This is going in the D tier. Ankle Assassin is interesting because I only have this on bronze and I get a pretty good amount of ankle breakers already. The higher tiers of this badge are not drastically better, and it's a tier 1 badge. There are so many better tier 1 badges that are worth upgrading, so I'm going to put this in the C tier. Strong Handle is actually a very good badge if you take advantage of the nutmegs and the triple threat blow bys. Like if you have Strong Handle on Hall of Fame or Legend, you can get that cheesy nutmeg pretty often, so I'm actually going to put this in A tier. Break Starter is a very important badge if you're a big man that plays 3s and 5s. More importantly 5s because fast break points are really important and you need to be able to throw the break. I'm going to put this in A tier. Dimer is very dependent on your teammates. If your teammates are building houses with the amount of bricks that they're shooting, you should probably put it on. But if your teammates are good, there's really no point. But on a lot of builds, Dimer is only a tier 2 badge, and like I said, shooting is very important, so if you can help your teammates make their shots, this is a good badge. With all that in mind, it has good value, it's good to help your teammates hit their shots. I'm going to put this in B tier. Bailout is a badge that isn't really used that often, and on most builds, it's a tier 1. And there's a lot more badges that I'd rather use a tier 1 on, so for this reason, I'm putting this in D tier. Versatile Visionary is a good badge for pro-am point guards that need to make those tight passes and help them avoid getting laned. But again, it's a tier 1 badge and we just can't waste an upgrade on it. This is going to be in C tier. Lightning Launch is a very, very, very important badge. You want to be able to get open and get to your spots, right? And the faster that you are, the easier this becomes. It doesn't matter how good of a shooter you are if you can't get open. I think this is a must-have badge to use an upgrade on. I'm putting this in the S tier. All right, now let's jump into the finishing, and let's start with Posterizer. A lot of you might take this as a little controversial, but I don't think so. I'm just speaking what's on my mind. Because dunking is already so effective and has a lot to do with height. Now keep in mind, I am a rim runner. Like I love to dunk. I really don't think there's any reason to go higher than gold unless you're attacking the basket a lot in ranked pro-am, because in there you're on comp sliders and there's a lot of potential bodies in the paint. But I do think that you should try to get this to gold if you can, because this badge is really good, and especially if you dunk a lot, you gotta get this to at least gold. So I'm gonna put this in B tier. Float game. Unless your playstyle is floaters, there's really no reason to upgrade this. I'd rather just meter dunk or shoot a front fade if I'm in that spot in that situation. So I'm going to put this in C tier. Hook Specialist. There is literally zero reason at all to upgrade this badge unless you are genuinely a pure post scorer shooting a lot of hooks. And if that's you, you most likely have this high already anyways, so I'm putting this in the D tier. Paint Prodigy. Well, I mean it is a tier 2 badge on a lot of builds, so I guess that provides enough value to not be in D tier, but it's not like a crazy game-changing badge by any means. I know I might get a little hate in the comments for saying that, but hey, I said what I said. I'm putting this in the C tier. Layup Mixmaster. Unless you're on a layup build, there's really no reason to use this, and I don't recommend making a layup build. It's not meta at all. It is a tier 2 badge though, so it does have value there. I can't put it in D tier, I'm putting it in C tier. Physical finisher. There just isn't that many situations where this badge activates, and most of the time, it's activating for the wrong reasons. It basically gives you a boost when you go up for bad attempts in the paint, and we don't want to take bad attempts. And on a lot of builds, it's a tier 1 badge, and this is one of the worst tier 1s in the game, not worth it at all. This is going in D tier. Aerial Wizard. This is a badge that is right up my alley, because if you guys know me, I do a ton of self-lobs, and I activate this badge multiple times a game, and let me tell you, there is hardly any difference at all between Bronze and Legend, so for that reason, I'm putting this in D tier. Rise Up. Standing dunks are very important for big men. When you get the ball in the paint under the basket, you don't want to go up with some weak shit. You want to dunk that motherfucker. This is easily an A tier badge for the bigs. Let's do Post-Up Powerhouse and Post-Up Poet at the same time. With all the post scorers that I've talked to, they all tell me that Post Powerhouse is the main badge you want as a post scorer because this helps with drop steps. So we're going to put this in B tier. But as far as Post-Up Poet, it really isn't meta at all and doesn't come close to Post Powerhouse, so we're going to put this in the C tier. Alright, for the rebounding badges, I feel like this is common sense because if you're a big man, you gotta be able to grab rebounds, bro. No explanation needed. These easily both go in S tier. I also want to add that if you're a twos guard, a lot of switching is involved and you want to be able to get that box out. So I recommend upgrading box out beast if it's a tier 2 badge for you, which it should be if you're a guard. I personally have mine upgraded to gold. Slippery Off Ball is a very specific badge for people who like to dex off ball. Yeah, it's a tier 2, but it's so niche and so playstyle specific that it's not worth the upgrade for 95% of players. So for that reason, it's going in C tier. Brick Wall. If you're a big man that is setting the screen every play, you obviously want to have this as high as possible, because if your guard can't get open, it's gonna hurt the entire team. You gotta make it easy for them. Just like Rebound and Box Out Beast, this is a must-have upgrade for the bigs. I'm putting this in S tier. Pogo Stick is a tier 1 badge on most big man builds, and you already have so many must-have badges on the bigs that are way more important than this, so for that reason, I'm putting this in C tier. We went over all the best badges, now let's go over all the best attributes. That video is on screen, go check it out. I don't want you to mess up your next build and waste all your hard-earned VC. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, drop a like if you did, have a good day, go out.